and you can still see the bullet holes in the windows here and there. There we have it.
Aloha and welcome back again. Today we're going to look at the turning point that brought the United States into the Second World War, Pearl Harbor.
Right, so this is a big national park where you can have a walk around, read all the information boards, and you can also go towards the actual memorial on a ferry, but the last one leaves at 3:30 p.m. so I'm a bit late, but doesn't matter. You also have the USS Missouri that you can visit down there. Later I'll take the car, go across the bridge and go to the other side. You also have other things on the main island, it's like the fourth island basically. And you have a submarine you can visit, but the entry ticket is $22. I mean, okay. I wonder what the other stuff is, but yeah. This is generally free. So I guess it will only be for the ships and some other stuff that you have to pay for. So I will find out later. But I will basically follow this walk around here. And read quickly about the details of this battle. I mean, I know quite something of this battle, I think. But still, it's interesting to learn new things, right? New details. Right, so here we have the memorial with all the names on the plaques of all the ships that were included and people that died on those ships and on the land, and it's all basically separated in their location under which they serve. So you have the actual ships, you have the branches in the military, the Navy, Air Force and civilians, all on those plaques around here. So here we are at the remembrance site of all the ships involved in the attack. So those were all the ships that were lost in one way or another, lost at sea. They were basically all here at Pearl Harbor during this attack. And in the background we have one of the submarines, the Bowfin. Which, yeah, it's a $22 I think entrance or something, so it's up to you if you want to do that. So I got myself a big bag of souvenirs because I'm pretty much into history. Maybe you've already noticed that, but yeah, I like history a lot, and I've grown up with my dad always telling me everything about Second World War. And one of the first things I learned was about Pearl Harbor, mostly also because of a game called Medal of Honor Rising Sun on the PlayStation 2. So, little personal thing about that is that when I was a kid, my dad had the sudden idea to buy a PlayStation 2. And with that he just bought 2 games. One of those was Medal of Honor Rising Sun. And I remember it very vividly. First time we started up the PlayStation 2, put the game in, the television was on high volume. The intro of the game is basically, it's a very loud noise basically, and then you get the logo of Medal of Honor and then a plane strafing the logo. And we were both like, whoa, what the hell was this? And that was the start of years of playing Medal of Honor Rising Sun, basically until the whole thing was, you know, turned to broken almost. Like it almost broke the whole disc, I guess. So many times we played this game. And one of the first missions, or well, the first mission, was to play at Pearl Harbor, the attack of Pearl Harbor. And that started the knowledge for me about this whole attack and the interest in this entire war, the war in the Pacific. So games are not always bad, right? Games can be informative, can be for good. And I learned a lot from that game. And it's weird now to think that I'm actually at that location. Like, you don't envision yourself as a child that you would ever go to such a very far off location. I mean, for Europe it's very far away to be in Hawaii. And now I'm standing there. And it's just, it feels a little bit like full circle, you know, one of those first memories as a kid with your dad. And then I'm here. Like, I hope next time I can bring him with me actually. That's why I bought many of those gifts, so I can at least send him something. But I quickly have to finish because they're actually closing the park. So yeah, let's have a little quick walk around and then continue. Okay, so you can't directly go to Fort Island or something for the museum, even though it doesn't show you anything about it, you can't. There is a sentry, as you call those guys, like those guards or something. And they become all serious about it or something, because you have to, it literally also says like, visitors take right lane. So I'm, you know, following that. And then you have to show your ID, so I show my ID, and it's so weird. Like, he takes my ID, he doesn't say anything, he just says wait here. He takes one of these, you know, orange cones, and he walks around my car, places it at the back of my car so I cannot back out or something. And then he comes back and he gives me sort of orders, and I'm like, I'm not in the military, like, chill out, you know, relax. And he's like, right now you're trying to enter a military facility. I'm gonna give you arm signals to follow me, and then you have to turn around over here. Understand? I'm like, sure, how do I get to the museum? Doesn't answer. And I'm like, what the hell's your problem? Jesus. And then he's like, okay, follow my signals right now. I'm like, okay, Jesus, you're really brainwashed in this military kind of stuff, man, relax. And then, you know, he waves you to him, and he's like, okay, you know, turn left here, and he hands me back my ID because he holds it the entire time. And then I ask him, well, like, hey, how do I get to this museum on the island? And I'm like, I don't know, Google it. And I'm like, oh, that's very helpful. I mean, you probably have this more often than not. So what's the problem in just, you know, you most probably know this answer. You're just too lazy to answer it. But okay. I mean, it's maybe good if they just put up a sign or something. I mean, not everybody is from the US, and not everybody understands those military stuff, because we're not all so militarized as here in the US. I mean, I've never been to a military base in my life, so how am I supposed to know those things? So I guess I will figure it out here somewhere in the visitor center. Alright, well, we have learned that you need to have a shuttle bus to get over there. It's nice that they mentioned that also at the entrance of the bridge, but okay. Like, maybe I missed that sign or something. And also that guy definitely knows it, he just was too lazy to tell me. So that means that I have to take my travel pills first, so that needs an hour to kick in. So I just took those, and then the ferry to the memorial, the Arizona Memorial, is free. But they have a lunch break now, so it's like, well, it makes sense actually, because I have to wait anyway for my pill to work. So I will have a look around in the museum. They have also like some kind of a movie or something going on about the Arizona, so I will do these things in between, waiting for this thing to work. Then I first go to the Missouri, and then you also have the Aviation Museum and everything. If I still have time for that, I will also do that. So apparently, you on that island, you will be dropped off exactly at the Missouri. Then you have to wait for the shuttle bus again to be picked up and then be dropped off at the Aviation. And then they bring you back over here. So, yeah, good to know. So that's the idea. It's not a great weather, as you can see, but this is my only free day that I can do this and have enough time to do everything. Not like the last time. So, yeah, let's see what we can do today. And learn as much as we can. So here we can see a watch of one of the unknown soldiers from the USS Oklahoma. And it stopped at around, well, 20 past 9, so that you know that this was the moment of the attack, and probably the moment that they sank, or that he died at least. So it's pretty crazy.
particular, and their names were Clarence Lipke and Chester Miller. Now, one of the reasons why their story stuck out at me is because they're from my hometown of Detroit, Michigan. And on a cold, snowy day in November of 1940, Clarence, Chester, and two of their other friends decided, all together as a group of four, that they were going to go out and join the Navy together. And the reason why was simple. They were kids, or teenagers at least, and they were doing kid jobs. Working at the bowling alley, picking up bottles and cans, delivering newspapers. They wanted something better. They wanted decent jobs with good benefits, which were hard to get back in those days. They could be hard to get now. So they decided, let's join the Navy, make something of themselves. But there were a few hurdles. Now, Clarence Lipke, he was only 17 years old, so he could join the Navy, but he had to get his parents' permission first. Chester Miller, well, he had a different problem. He was just too young. Of course, he wasn't going to let that stop him. I mean, he'd grown up just one street over from Clarence. He went to the same elementary school down the block with him. He wasn't going to let his best buddy go join the Navy without him. So he walked right up to the recruiter and he lied about his age. So Chester Miller joined the Navy at the fresh-faced age of 15 years old. And I do mean fresh-faced because I've seen a picture of him in training camp and it is clear the kid couldn't shave yet. The recruiter was not asking questions that day. But all four friends were accepted into the U.S. Navy. All four went through training together in Chicago. And all four were assigned to ships in the U.S. Pacific Fleet, here in Pearl Harbor. Now, one of their friends was assigned to a light cruiser, the USS Helena, where he served alongside his brother. Another went to the battleship Nevada. But Clarence and Chester, they got one of the biggest and best ships, USS Arizona. Now, Chester was assigned as a fireman second class, an F2C, working in the engine plant of the ship. And Clarence, well, he got a different job, but he actually applied for a transfer so he could work side by side with his best friend. And for a while, it was pretty good. When all the ships were together here in Pearl Harbor, they could go visit each other. And their buddy on the cruiser Helena, he was jealous. He went to go visit Clarence and Chester on the Arizona, and he thought the dining facilities were a lot better than what he got on his ship. He said that on the Arizona, they got plates. But then, on December 7th, 1941, the Arizona was sunk during the attack on Pearl Harbor, and 1,177 members of her crew were killed, including Clarence and Chester. At the time, Clarence Lipke was only 18 years old, and Chester Miller was only 16. And they're still there on the Arizona. They and over 900 of their fellow shipmates, their bodies were never recovered. I wanted to tell you this story to remind you that regardless of why you decided to come to Pearl Harbor today, you are about to visit a cemetery, the final resting place of Clarence, Chester, and so many other young men. And we simply ask that you treat the Arizona Memorial the same way you would visiting any other cemetery. Please be quiet and respectful when you're out there. Make sure to keep your voices low. Have your phones on silent. But most importantly, please remember that the men who died weren't just names on a wall, but they were husbands, brothers, fathers, and sons. They all had families. They all had friends. And their family and friends still come here to pay their respects to their lost loved ones. Some of them may be on the boat with you today. And it is especially poignant that you are here today, because at this point in history, there is only one survivor left from the Arizona. His name is Lou Conter, and just a few months ago, he turned 102 years old. And I hope we have Lou around for a lot longer. But chances are, we probably won't. And someday soon, within the next few years, it's entirely likely that the events of December 7th are going to pass completely out of living memory. And what that means is that it is now up to us, me and you, to remember what happened that day, to remember the names, to remember their stories, and to pass them down to our children and our children's children, so that they and their sacrifices are never forgotten. So I would like to thank all of you very much, on behalf of the United States Navy, the National Park Service, and myself, for coming out here to Pearl Harbor National Memorial to pay your respects at the Arizona. And now, I'm going to open up these doors, and I'll send you out to the dock. Thank you all very much.
Let's see what you can see over here.
Right, so now we go to the actual battleship Missouri, which we could also see from the Arizona Memorial, but now we actually have to take this shuttle bus. And it's every 15 minutes it comes and goes, and it stops at the Missouri, at the Aviation Museum, and then it comes back. Because it's on an active military base, that's why I was sent back the first time. But yeah.
At Pearl Harbor you can learn about the devastating start of the Second World War for the United States. But you can also go full circle by visiting the USS Missouri, because here it was that the surrender was signed in 1945. This would be the last battleship to be commissioned by the United States, and it was finished at the tail end of World War II in 1944. But it was still on time to partake in the invasions of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, and it was preparing for the invasion of Japan.
Here are the massive guns of the battleship Missouri. It's not something you want to rain down on you, definitely. My god, they're huge. I've never been on a battleship before, so this is the first time. But those things are massive. So here we have a canister of gunpowder. And then there we have the actual shell. Well, imagine raining that down on your head. Not gonna have a happy day. I think there were a few instances that, for example, during the D-Day landings in Normandy, that tanks, for example, were hit by one of those shells. The entire tank was completely obliterated, like literally nothing was left of it. So that's, then you understand the difference between an actual tank and a battleship. So right now we are not below deck, but we are, I don't know, inside at deck level. I don't know what it's called. My shipping terms are not that great, but I know it's not below deck yet. Here we have pieces of the Arizona, for example. And they all have some kind of mock-ups of other ships. So here you have the miniature of the Missouri and the yeah. This is. Oh, it's also a Missouri submarine, right? Ah. And here we have the of the Emperor of Japan. Order of the Rising Sun with neck ribbon, witness there for sure. Oh wow! So it's an official medal of Japan. So this was awarded in 2022, so it's very recent, it's super new. Yeah, achieved in promoting peace and fostering friendly relations between two nations. It's yeah, it's ironic because you actually see quite some Japanese tourists here. I always wonder what they think about when they come to such place. Because I also know that Japan is not really the best in teaching their own country about what their country did. So I wonder how they look at this and what they actually know about this in general. But at least they are trying to reconcile. So yeah, even until 1992 this ship was still active. It's pretty crazy, pretty bizarre. Such an old ship technically. Just 30 minutes left because this one closes at 4. So I'm quickly going up to the tower and see what's up there. Alright. So. So here are a couple of the instruments that they would be using, like compasses and bearings and all kinds of meters and stuff. I'm not really sure what is what. This is for power, basically full throttle and stuff like this. Here, this is not very visible, but yeah, here shaft something. Must be something with the power, and obviously steering the ship. I'm not really not in shipping or anything. This is the compass for sure. Yeah. It has been updated, of course, throughout the years, considering it was active duty until the 90s. So it's an open bridge, which is kind of interesting. So apparently that was the captain's chair. I mean, on a nice day it's nice, but on this kind of a day, not so much. But this is the bridge. The chart house. The quartermaster. Alright. So yeah, they would of course use GPS later on, of course, and still rely heavily on charts. It's the seaman's way. It's also very low here. Here is the conning tower. So that's what they use to actually steer and do all the engines and stuff. Oh yeah, here we have the steering wheel. Yeah. And very little slits to see through. I mean, it's probably pretty protected because that's one of the first things that the enemy tries to hit, probably. You know, to knock out the steering. So it kind of makes sense. And here we have other instruments. Here we have, I think this must be a radar or some sort of radar. And other meters that we can, and here compass again. Telephones. So they had, like, of course, kind of like a walkie-talkie, right, with phones on different levels, and they could talk to each other like that. Pretty interesting. For the commanding officer of USS Missouri. Yeah, a good view from here. And this is the captain at sea cabin, because it's a special cabin. It's next to the control tower and all the command center, basically. It's literally next here is the steering wheel, so he can be alerted if necessary. And it's all sort of updated for the 90s, for the last commanding officer time, because there's an old television here, some books and a telephone or whatever. So yeah. So this is the exact location on the deck where the surrender was signed on September 2nd, 1945. And here we have the documents. Alright. So there we have Supreme Commanders, Japanese government, Republic of China, Soviet Union, Republic, New Zealand, the Netherlands. Yes, this is the Netherlands. Here the Netherlands again. Alright. I have to get a move on because it's closing. But I'm at the stern of the ship, which is the back of the ship. I learned this. And near here is I think there was a kamikaze attack also that happened on the ship. And it happened somewhere here, I think. Oh yeah, here. Burial at sea. So that kamikaze pilot actually, sort of crashed in here, and his body was still, well, in the plane, and they gave him a sea-worthy burial at sea, which was, you know, a very respectful thing to do for such an enemy. The hatred, of course, at this point for the Japanese was very big, for the ferocity and the sort of almost evil way of conducting war, especially on land, and the kamikazes in the air. So it would have been more than normal sort of to just, you know, chuck him in the sea and, you know, call it a day. But they remember that combatants, when they're alive, can be your enemy. When they're dead, they're humans. But you can still see the railing being bent. So there you see the bending in the rail. This is where the kamikaze hit. So he literally came to the side of the ship and he tried to ram it, and this explosion catapulted him apparently with some wreckage on top of the boat, a ship, sorry, and the rest went into the sea, and this is the only thing that's left over from that moment. Pretty remarkable. Well, let's get out of here before they kick me off. Well, this is the stern side with another big gun over here.
In the early years of the war, this Japanese fighter outclassed almost every Allied fighter thanks to its maneuverability and fuel efficiency. The tactics used against the Germans and Italians didn't work against this Japanese fighter. Therefore, they had to reinvent a different tactic called the zoom and boom, which means that you come from above and go down low and strafe. But by war's end, the Zero was outclassed and outmaneuvered by most Allied aircraft. This plane was used in the Doolittle raid, which was a revenge raid for Pearl Harbor. It was a one-way journey because the crew had to bail out over China. And one of them, after the war, met the Japanese commander of the Pearl Harbor attack and turned him into a Christian missionary. Way before the conflict in Europe, or in general a world conflict, there was already the Sino-Japanese War. And in this period, there was already an American squadron flying around in China fighting Japanese. They were called the Flying Tigers, and they were flying around in these aircraft. And fun side note is that these airmen were transported from the US to Burma by Dutch transport ships.
So right now we are on the airfield of Pearl Harbor base. I forgot actually what the name is of this airfield specifically, but I'm doing a quick run around because it's just like a half an hour left before it closes down. So this is this famous watchtower with a old-fashioned fire truck there, and DC Douglas. It was actually mostly used as an airborne carrier for paratroopers, and also transportation airplane. And I think also the Dutch royal family used to have one of those planes. They bought one, I think, of them, because I remember that the Dutch prince or something used to have one of these planes. He bought one, you know, after the war. They had like a surplus of these things everywhere. So, well, we're gonna go to hangar 79, which still has the bullet holes in it. But here we have some planes on display. So here we have hangar 79, which was right in the firing line of the Japanese Zeros coming down on Pearl Harbor. And you can still see the bullet holes in the windows here and there. There we have it. You can see them up there. You see them? There, there, there. All the holes from 80 plus years ago. It's extraordinary, you know. Here we have more all the way to that side. Of course, they are airplane bullets, and they're not ordinary bullets, so they make a bigger hole, obviously. But yeah, it's astounding that they didn't want to repair this or something. Don't see any structural hits. Maybe they filled that up or something. But the windows they have kept. Wow. It's also depicted in Pearl Harbor, the movie, that they, you know, attacked this hangar and everything, and the whole airfield around here, and that those two flyboys are trying to get up in the air and stuff. Partially closed. Wow. And with that we conclude our Pearl Harbor experience. Finally did it the way it was supposed to be, not like the first time. And you definitely need the whole day for this. If you do the entire package, I think you can have like a passport, which is like a combination ticket, I think of $100 per person, obviously, for all the things. So I didn't do the bowfin submarine because, well, you have to make choices. But including that one, plus some kind of 3D, oh no, what was it again? Like, well, experience with those glasses, I forgot the name. But yeah, that's just futuristic stuff, you don't need to do that for me. So I'm happy with what I did. I quickly went to the Aviation, that was still $27. But anyway, you know, I'm here probably this is the only time I'm probably here, so I saw the hangar, saw the planes, I'm happy. And the Missouri, the Arizona, everything, I I'm happy with all of this. It has been a, well, not really particularly a dream, but it has something that I always would have wanted to see from when I was first introduced to the story as a child playing video games about this event. So video games are not always bad. They can be good, and they can definitely teach you something about history in this case. Well, let's get out of here. Let's get back to Waikiki.
Well, I hope you have a bit of an idea of what you can expect from Pearl Harbor and what you can see and do and what it all costs. But remember, lest we forget the fallen heroes. Thank you for watching and see you next time.